So if you ever thought to yourself, man, I really love Mario Party and it'd be really cool if I could take it with me and play it with my friends on the go, you might look at all this and think, well, that shouldn't be that hard to accomplish. But things aren't quite as simple as that. For some reason I don't quite understand, Mario Party on handhelds has always been a bunch of experimental nonsense that only vaguely resembles Mario Party. It's either a case where they tweak the formula and remove most of the satisfaction of a Mario Party game, or they just straight up make something that isn't Mario Party. Like, look at this. What is this? Not Mario Party, that's what.
Bella. Luigi?
So yeah, handheld Mario Parties don't have a great track record, but what if I told you there was an exception? What if I told you there was a handheld Mario Party game that doesn't warp the formula? One that not only has excellent board design, great mini games, a surprisingly solid story mode of all things, and was one of the best games in the series, and yet no one ever talks about it. So yeah, Mario Party DS released back in 2007, and boy was that a magical time. I remember going to my friends' houses back then with my DS, and if we weren't playing Mario Kart DS as a bunch of shy guys, we were all playing Mario Party. Even the ones who didn't have the game. Whether we were betraying our friends to get an extra star, or betraying our friends to win a minigame, one thing was true. You were probably gonna lose those friends. But also it was a freaking blast. The board, the mini games, the story mode, it was just such a cool package. While I wouldn't call it my favorite Mario Party game, it's definitely up there with the best of them. And so it's kind of shocking to me that no one really talks about it or even seems to remember it half the time. No one mentions it when talking about their favorite Mario Parties or just mentions it in general when talking about Mario Party. Barely anyone talks about it here on YouTube either. And heck, even when I mentioned I was going to cover this, I got several people mentioning that they basically had forgotten about it. It's just weird, you know? I mean, the game sold 9 million copies, and the few times I do hear it mentioned, people seem to really like it. So why? Why is this situation even happening? I honestly don't have any clue, but you know what? Someone's gotta give it some love, and I don't mind being the one to do it. So let's discuss Mario Party DS, the best Mario Party game that everyone's forgotten about for some reason. So with any one of these games, the first thing you're likely going to be interested in is the party mode. Huh. How shocking. Now thankfully, unlike the other handheld entries, DS is an actual Mario Party game. You pick a character, pick a board, roll to see the turn order, and then the goal of each board is to get more stars than everyone else. Stars cost coins, which you get from minigames, and items can be used to either help yourself or make life a nightmare for the other players. It sounds fairly standard for the series, which I mean, considering the other handheld games, that's a massive improvement on its own, but the strength in this game is in its boards, which I'd argue are some of the best in the series. DS features 5 different boards: Wiggler's Garden, Toadette's Music Room, DK's Stone Statue, Kamek's Library, and Bowser's Pinball Machine. Now 5 boards doesn't exactly sound like a lot, but what it lacks in quantity, it makes up for in quality. Now firstly, thematically, these boards are neato burrito, as my friend Jordan might say. The entire premise of the game is that Mario and the gang have all been turned super tiny, which at first is like, haha, I get it, it's because it's on a small handheld system. But beyond this, that theme of everyone being really tiny contributes to the whimsical designs of the boards and minigames. All the boards and most of the minigames do their best to make you feel small, and they use the scenery to really get that point across. Boards like Toadette's Music Room are just really neat visually, and so it makes the boards really pop visually. It makes these relatively small locations feel larger than life, and it's really cool. And small really is the word here, because the actual boards are fairly small by comparison to the rest of the series. Seriously, one good roll can take you all the way across the map. But where some of the other Mario Party games can have boards that feel a little too bloated, DS's boards aren't just small, they're dense. There's a lot going on with these boards, tons of event spaces, duel spaces, shops, and even Bowser spaces that I can never seem to avoid for some reason. Straight up, on this one map, I hit the Bowser space every time I got to the star. It was wild. There's just a lot of stuff to each board. Add that to the fact that these items make the terrain even more dangerous, and it means that there's just a lot happening. Every round is an event, which means that things remain exciting. As I said, these boards are dense, which makes them a lot more fun to go through. Also, a neat little thing is that these boards have several little tweaks to the formula, ones that keep things fresh without making them feel like they're not Mario Party. Toadette's Music Room, for example, has stars start off way cheaper than usual, but with each star someone gets, the price goes up for a while, coinciding with a change in the musical note used. You're still going for stars, they're just this little bit of added spice to the mix to keep things fresh and interesting from board to board. The same goes for DK's rock hard Stone Statue. This one is neat because the star always stays in the same place at the top of the hill, and when you get there you can buy as many stars as you want provided you have enough coins. And so the focus shifts to trying to slow your ascent up the mountain and get as many coins as you can while also placing traps to make your enemies' lives just a little bit harder. It's neat that these gimmicks can change the flow of a match without ruining the satisfaction of a Mario Party game. The only case where the gimmick doesn't quite work as well is in Kamek's library, where now there are 3 jars and only one of them contains a star while the other one contains a nasty little surprise. It just feels a little too random for my liking, and it feels like it removes a lot of the strategy that the other maps allow for. And yes, I know saying strategy in Mario Party sounds kinda dumb, but trust me, there is a little bit here, but not in Kamek's library. It's not horrible or anything, it's just not nearly as fun as the other boards, that's all. Regardless, the party mode is freaking amazing, especially when you have friends to play with, which I don't. No one wants to play Mario Party DS with me, it's not fair. But hey, that's an interesting point actually. What if you can't play with friends at the moment? I mean, this is a handheld game, so it's not like you'd always have people to play with. So what is there for single players? Well, Mario Party DS has you covered with one of the neatest things about this game, the story mode. So yeah, several Mario Party games have a story mode, but most of them are kept really basic and they're kinda lame. Now, DS isn't this masterstroke of storytelling or anything, but what's here is still a little more impressive than you'd expect. The story is Mario and the gang get invited to Bowser's castle to have a feast since Bowser wants to apologize for being a big meanie. But oh no, shocker of the century, Bowser was lying and turns everyone small with a magic wand called the Minimizer. Now sure, whatever, yeah, it's bad or something, but way worse is that he didn't give them any food. Alright, that's it. So the mini gang all head to Bowser's castle, along the way helping out several individuals with their problems. Oh, what, you thought I'd be playing as Mario in a Mario Party game? Nah.
Luigi!
Each board has its own mini narrative where some baddie is causing a kerfuffle, and so it's up to the gang to stop them. Now how they decide who will stop them is by winning a board from the main party mode, which makes sense. I mean, I'm playing Mario Party to play, well, Mario Party, so I'm glad that the mode is mostly focused on the actual board game. Compliments here are the same as in the party mode, as all the same boards are reused, but there's one specific attribute unique to the story mode, which is that it actually has full-on boss fights. These are some really neat scale expanders. They make the story feel more significant, like it has more scale to it, and that's pretty cool. And I know bosses are a typical game thing, but this is a freaking party mode. Like, come on, it's kind of impressive. The first boss, Piranha Plant, is a solid first boss with a nice bit of challenge, which is more than I can say for Hammer Bro over here. Like, this is just Simon Says, and not even complex Simon Says. Dry Bones is a bit of an improvement though, and even features a fully 3D battlefield, which is super neat. Now if only the boss wasn't like a minute long. The Kamek fight though, it's cool as flip. It's this cool scrolling shooter thing, and it feels like a real boss fight. And man, it's actually challenging too. The boss has all these cool patterns, it's awesome. Like man, they really stepped up their game here. And the final boss is... oh right, I gotta actually get through the story. So you've helped everyone thus far and gotten these weird shard things, and after a brief run through of Bowser's pinball machine, the gang all gets turned back to normal size. And now it's time to face Bowser, the final boss, who, really likes Legos, I guess? But yeah, it's another fully 3D fight, and it's fairly cool too. Though man, I remember this boss being super hard when I was a kid, and now it's like, well, that was easy. Get wrecked, young me. And after you beat Bowser, he decides he might want to stop being a big meanie and join in on the fun. Yeah, that's great, but more important is that they actually got the food this time. Now this story mode isn't insane or anything, but for a party game, it's actually pretty neat. Like the fact that they went out of their way to make such a significant story mode for a game like this that really doesn't need it if I'm being honest. That's just a really nice thing that they did, and I feel like nobody really appreciates it. Outside of the story and party mode though, there are some other modes you can spend your time on. The most major mode being the minigame mode. Which actually, we should talk about the minigames real quick because, oh boy, there are some fun ones here. Most of them are themed around the whole being really small thing like the rest of the game, but beyond the cool visual design, these are just some really solid minigames. Now since this was the DS, it only made sense that some of these would use the touchscreen. Games like Goomba Wrangler and Twist and Route use it in some fairly novel ways, but for some reason my favorite ones are the really simple ones, like Call of the Goomba for example. You just turn the crank, make music very poorly, and get the Goombas to come to you. I don't know why I like this one, it's just kind of amusing to me. And speaking of amusing, Boogie Beam is just funny to me. Like look at their little dance here, it's just cute. Roller Coasters is also great because you think, oh, this is gonna be real slow, and then it's like, I also like Camera Shy and Globe Gunners, partially just because of the free movement, and partially because I can fall behind the AI and cheese it like this. Oh yeah, and speaking of the AI, oh boy, they are just great. I guess you could say Luigi won by doing absolutely nothing, huh? Am I right, guys? Now sure, not all the minigames are great, namely a couple button mashers and some straight up luck-based ones, but overall, there's just a solid selection of minigames. Honestly, I have enough to say where I probably could make a whole video on just the minigames here, so if you want to see that for some reason, just tell me in the comments or something. And hey, tell me your favorite minigames while you're there if you want. Or don't, I can't tell you what to do, I'm not your dad. But yeah, outside the free play minigame modes, there's still a couple other things to sink your teeth into. There are multiple modes focused on the minigames themselves. There's a really neat boss rush where you can try to beat your best time while fighting all the bosses in a row. There's also this cool puzzle mode actually that has a bunch of different puzzle games you can play. My personal favorite is Stick and Spin. And finally, there's this gallery where you can listen to music, view records, and look at a collection of figurines that you get from playing the game. They have these neat little descriptions and everything. It's kind of like Smash's trophies actually. Not particularly notable, but it's still a cute little distraction. And that was Mario Party DS, an entry in the series that really had a lot more going for it than it really needed. Obviously, as a multiplayer game, Mario Party DS is an absolute blast, featuring some of the best boards and minigames in the entire series. But even beyond that, it packed in so many extra things to do, even cramming in an entire story mode just to make the package feel worth it whether you were playing with friends or alone. Like, the fact that they put so much effort in just shows how much they cared. It's not my favorite in the series, but I utterly adore it, and I really hope that at some point people come around and start talking about it again.